Alright. So even if you are not quite finished with these, we're going to go over our answers, and then you're going to make sure you have them submitted. If you haven't done that already, you can always resubmit if you need to. But going over our chapter 2.4 guided reading, you should have that pulled up in front of you so we can go over our answers and you can double check what you have. Our first question is, what are organelles? What would you explain, Neely?
They're tiny structures that are inside cells.
Okay, tiny structures that are inside cells. And the warm-up also stated that they carry out specific functions, right?
Another also said an even smaller structure inside a cell.
Right, an even smaller structure inside the cell as well. Yep, because the organelles are even smaller components of cells. Yes. Okay, then question 2, you move on to the next section in your guided reading notes. The rigid layer of non-living material that surrounds plant cells is what?
Cell wall.
The cell wall. Okay. Then in the same section, question 3, you needed to highlight the letter of each sentence that is true about the cell wall. So which statements are true? There could be more than one. A and B, I agree. So A, highlight that, and B, we will highlight as well. The cell walls are made of cellulose, and plant cells have cell walls. Okay, then going down to question 4, what does the cell wall do?
Support and protect the cell.
Okay, it supports and protects the cell. It gives it that rigid structure and shape, and it acts like that barrier to allow or block things from going in and out. Okay, question 5. Where is the cell membrane located in cells that have cell walls? H.
Inside of the cell wall.
Okay, it's inside the cell wall. So like right on the other edge of the cell wall. Logan?
Doesn't like the cell membrane like work with the cell wall and they do like the same thing?
Yep, they do. They both kind of do a similar thing about kind of monitoring what goes in and out of the cell. For a plant cell, it's that extra layer, and then for other cells, it's that first barrier. Okay, so that kind of answers question 6 then. Where is the cell membrane located in cells that do not have cell walls? So it's that outer layer that acts like a barrier, okay? Right. Then question 7 in this section is the following sentence true or false? The main function of the cell membrane is to control what comes into and out of a cell.
True.
It is true. Okay, it acts like that barrier or that guard. Then you move on to the next section. And we look at the nucleus. So you had to highlight the letter of each sentence that is true about the nucleus. So what did you guys highlight?
I highlighted A and B.
A, B, and D. Do we agree? I agree as well. A, the materials pass in and out of the nucleus through the nuclear envelope. B, the chromatin contains the instructions that direct the functions of a cell, and then ribosomes are made in the nucleolus. Okay? Then we move on to our next section that goes over each of the specific organelles that are in the cell. And this is just kind of giving you a brief overview of what's going on. So question 9, highlight the letter of the part of the cell that is the region between the cell membrane and the nucleus.
C.
C, the cytoplasm. Yep. All right. Then, for the table, you had to write out the specific functions for each of the organelles that are listed. Okay? So what is the function of mitochondria? What does that do?
It powers the cell.
Okay, it powers the cell. Did you have any specifics of what it does or how it powers it?
Well, I know it gives the cell its energy and stuff.
Yep. Okay, so it converts energy from food into ATP, energy the cell uses. So ATP energy is a form of chemical energy that the cell can then use to carry out other functions and move things around. Just like when you eat food, your body breaks it down and uses that energy to be able to move and do things. Okay, how about the endoplasmic reticulum? What does that do?
It carries protein and other materials from side to side.
Okay, so it carries proteins and other materials, I'm going to say throughout the cell, because it can kind of move it to different locations in the cell. Yep. What do ribosomes do? What is their function? Allie? They produce proteins. How about the Golgi bodies, or this was that like Golgi apparatus? What does this do? Kind of got a long list of things. Go ahead, Allie.
It receives materials from the plasma and sends them to other parts of the cell.
Right. So it receives proteins and other materials. It packages them and then sends them to other parts of the cell. So it takes it and then it kind of puts it together and then sends it to another location. So kind of like the endoplasmic reticulum, it just finalizes the process a little bit more. All right, how about chloroplasts? These are found only in plant cells. What do they do?
They capture energy from the sun and use it for its food for itself.
Right, so chloroplasts capture energy from the sun and use it as food for the cell. Through the process of photosynthesis, we will talk about that later on, but for now, that is what the chloroplasts do. Then vacuoles, what do they do?
The storage area?
It's just the storage area, yep. And one thing to add with vacuoles, there's one vacuole in plants and many vacuoles in animal cells. We could say plant cells and animal cells. Okay? Plant cells have one large one, animal cells have many small ones. And then lysosomes, what do they do? These are generally just found in animal cells. Some plant cells rarely have these, but you can find them. Amaris, go ahead. Did you have your hand up?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Gage?
They break down certain materials from the cell.
Right, yep. So they contain chemicals that break down materials in the cell. This can be like pieces of food in the cell, it needs to be broken down into smaller pieces. It could be like dead or decomposing pieces of the cell that need broken down and then like secreted as waste. They just kind of break that down and are like the cleanup crew. Okay, after that, we move on to our last section of specialized cells. So in a many-celled organism, cells are specialized to perform different what? Functions. Okay? There's different tasks and functions and jobs that those cells have to perform. Then our last question, you are highlighting the sentence that is true about specialized cells. So what statements are true? A, C, and D. So in many-celled organisms, cells are often organized into tissues. A tissue is a group of cells that work together to perform a specific function. And then a group of organs that work together to perform a major function is called an organ system. So this would be like your digestive system or your nervous system. When we have those specific categories about our body, there's multiple organs and systems that compose that whole structure that all work together to perform that specific task. All right, if you have these done then, please make sure you get them submitted so that they get turned in, and then you are good to go.